To Bitcoin Live, another exciting episode, as I like to say. Jan is still out of the running, but I got a wonderful guest with me, Josiah Spackman, representing Digibyte. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me here, man. It's good to be here.
It's my honor and my pleasure to have you here. Last time, of course, we had Scripps Skynet and Mike on to talk about DigiAssets and NFTs, which was a lot of fun. But I hope to go into the specs of Digibyte with Spackman.
Yeah, yeah, and there are probably very few other people that like to dive into some of the nitty gritty, but I really think that's where all of like the fun happens for me, like the magic happens, because this is what makes Digibyte special and unique and different from all the other projects. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I once saw this presentation by Jared Tate. I think he called it like the DNA of the web, the DNA-based web of the web 3.0. I don't know what it was, something like that, and it was about how Digibyte is basically being able to make nature digital. He made like an analog comparison between nature and Digibyte, sort of.
Yeah, the idea that with being decentralized, you have multiple copies of the blockchain in a whole lot of different places. So with Digibyte, the last time that I myself crawled the network, I think we had around about 11,000 different nodes that had been online within the last, I think it was 24 hours. Yeah, it might have been 48 hours, but that's still that's a lot of different places and a lot of different copies for the Digibyte blockchain. So that you're not allowed, so you're not about to wake up one morning and find that it's just disappeared or something exciting like that.
Yeah, that's the last thing that you want. I think it was called the Digital DNA of Internet 3.0. That was the title I was referring to.
Yeah, that's similar to his book, Blockchain 2035. I think that's his tagline that he uses.
I should definitely go read that then. Yeah, I find Jared Tate very inspiring, and I think he created a wonderful piece of, wonderful protocol, basically. And so what excites you the most about Digibyte?
Well, I think we touched a little bit about this before we started the show in the idea like multi-algo making Digibyte so special, but not just multi-algo, because there's a couple of other multi-algo blockchains out there. But the combination and the whole encompassing aspect of both being multi-algorithm and having multi-shield, the two of those together are just like a real force to be reckoned with. And that's what gives us the security and also the broader distribution compared with a lot of other assets. So that's what really excites me is the possibilities that enables for us. So that's why I'm super excited as well about the idea of replacing two of the algorithms we're looking at the moment with ProgPow and with RandomX. So that's what I'm most excited for at the moment.
I actually heard in one of those speeches by Jared that he was even thinking about looking to Decred to do like a proof of stake, proof of work combination kind of algorithm.
Yeah.
Was it ever because that was way back? I don't know.
So he and I actually we've spent a number of times on the phone and things, and he ended up bringing me one day going, I've got this really great idea for us to do staking and also to incentivize basically block subsidy rewards and things like that. And the idea that he had at the time was that when you staked it, you would have certain other types of addresses that would go towards things like development or go towards things like marketing campaigns and a whole bunch of other things like that, administration. The problem, though, is that if you end up doing something like that where you get block rewards sent to what is effectively a centralized entity, then you have that level of centralization. There is a gatekeeper who decides this is worthwhile, this is not. You're part of the in team, you're not. And that's not really cool. That doesn't keep with the same kind of, I suppose, like the ethos of Digibyte. And so nothing ever actually happened there, but that's not to say that in the future we couldn't have part staking and part other algorithms. I've written a bunch of times in the past about, so we've got 5 different algorithms at the moment, and if we were to go for an ASIC algorithm, FPGA, GPU, CPU, The fifth one could be something like, it could be it could be hard drive mining. It could be some form of staking. It could potentially be that in the future there are 2 types of staking algorithms. I'm not entirely too sure, but that's also what I like about being in Digibyte, is I don't know specifically what the future will hold. We have so many options. We've got so many choices for longevity. We have a rock solid foundation there when it comes to the security, and we're just basically building on that and improving upon it. So I've actually got, if you're all right, I could quickly share do a screen share here. I wonder if it's going to let me do this. Yeah, here we go.
Yes, I can see it.
Thinking about it. Here we go. Okay, so this was in July 2016. And so when I talk about the benefits that are afforded to us from being multi-algorithm, so this is what Bitcoin looked like as of July. So actually, is this a whole year old now? Oh, I need to do a new one. Okay. So 1 year ago, this is what the Bitcoin mining looked like. And to be fair, like, this is pretty decent, right? Over a 16-hour period. I mean, that's not bad.
No, it's certainly not. Yeah,
so if we look at Litecoin, I mean, it's not quite the same sort of distribution here. So I mean, Bitcoin's definitely doing a little bit better if you look at 16 hours worth.
Yeah.
But then if we come down to Digibyte, this is what we look like over 16 hours. So
yeah, that's incredible.
It's a lot more colorful, and so you get the nice side-by-side comparison of all of them. So yeah, Digibyte over 16 hours. We've still got exactly the same as Litecoin has there. There is definitely a more dominant miner. From what I can gather, this particular person is a multi-mining pool. Mm-hmm. But when you look at all of the other, like the rest of the circle here and the distribution, that's huge.
Yes.
But I want it to be better. I think it can be better. And I think that GPU and CPU mining is going to improve that a whole lot more and allow it to get into the hands of more people. So
yes,
I'm super excited about that. Like that's what really gets me. I love it. I love doing this. I love working with Digibyte. That's great.
Yeah, because there's of course a benefit for ASIC mining, but there's definitely a benefit for CPU and GPU mining. And CPU mining is it for everybody to mine it at home, basically on their own laptop or computer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's kind of like a little bit of a balance here. And so when we started off with multi-algo, Digibyte originally had the SHA-256 and Scrypt algorithms were all ASIC mined. We had Myriad, Grostal, and Skeen that were GPU mined, and Quibbit was CPU mineable. As of today, they were all able to be mined on ASICs effectively. So we kind of ASICs are great, like don't get me wrong. It's not about removing them entirely because as we've seen with the likes of Bitcoin, they allow for the greatest security. However, it is a lot more centralized, as you can see specifically with the Bitcoin and Litecoin graphs. It's, and part of proof of work is not just about security, but it's also about a fair distribution of the Digibyte token every block. And that's where CPU and GPU mining come into it, getting it into the hands of as many people as possible because we're lowering that barrier to entry and we're making it accessible to people. If you were to start mining on your CPU today, you've presumably got a PC or a laptop. Would I be right?
Yes.
And in terms of there being like a barrier to entry, all that you would need to do is download some software, paste in your address, and off you go. That's how simplified we can get it. And that's where I think that a lot of awareness is also going to come from as well, because people are then also going to be as excited as I am. You can mine it yourself. These are coins that you've mined. You haven't gone and had to buy them off of an exchange, but you can get it yourself. And there's a lot of also advantages when it comes to not having to do KYC and again, other sorts of barriers. You don't have to have a credit card to go online and purchase some, that kind of thing. So it's huge, the implications.
Yeah, were like the good old days when you could still mine Bitcoin on your computer.
Yeah.
You see the drawback from ASIC mining with China right now closing shop, and the impact that has on the Bitcoin mining, the algorithm, the hash rate. So that's kind of, it can also, yeah.
Well, so if, as far as I'm aware, Bitcoin blocks are currently being found roughly every 15 minutes at the moment, and that's somewhat less than ideal.
Digibyte, it is like 15 seconds.
Yeah, correct. And so part of that is with being multi-algorithm, we're able to adjust the difficulty of each of them. Actually, let's really quickly, we'll do another screen share here and I'll show off some Digi
No problem.
stats.
And
So
also,
with,
one other thing I wanted to say, because you mentioned that earlier about decentralization.
yes,
And Digibyte has never had an ICO and doesn't have like a central organization behind it. It's completely decentralized. It's just a community.
correct. So what we have here is we've got these are all of the difficulties for the 5 different algorithms. And at face value, I mean, they're just kind of pretty colorful little graphs that don't really show a whole lot. But when you look at them, you can see here that with the Skeen algorithm, it's been decreasing a little bit, but the Qubit algorithm has been actually going up a little bit. And so when a block is found, all of the different algorithms are adjusted so that we can maintain that accuracy of the block timing. And so I think I actually did, I'll see if I can actually find it as well. Oh, we can even scroll down and see them all going up and down in almost real time. It is this that allows us, like being multi-algo allows us to have that accuracy thanks to multi-shield, which is the brainchild of Mental Colette's. And multi-shield allows us to have that accuracy of block timings and that stability, even if one of them, like say for example, there's a whole lot of SHA-256 miners shutting down.
Yeah.
That's okay. We've still got the other 4 that will all carry on working and everything will adjust and it's completely flawless. It's amazing. Absolutely incredible.
And that's one awesome dashboard you have there. Very useful also.
Yeah.
I understand why you like it so much.
Yeah. I'm kind of proud of, I put it together sort of 18 months ago and it's nice. We can even, if we go have a look at the difficulties, we can actually go back over let's go back over 2 years and you can see them all chopping and changing and things. It takes a moment to spin up and figure it all out, but it's actually been really cool. We've had a few mining pools approach us and just say, hey, look, historically, have you got any graphs and charts and things of what's been happening with the difficulty? And so it's really nice to be able to refer people back to this and to be able to show them it. It's taking a while for 2 years worth of data to be loaded right now, though.
And these algos, they also adjust themselves every 10 days or something? What? Something like that.
So with AutoCrypt changes some of the fundamental parts of itself every 10 days. So the difficulty and how hard it is to mine a block, that's adjusted every 15 seconds.
Yes.
But the way that AutoCrypt blocks are accepted and what is decided to be a valid block, that's changed every 10 days. And so it prevents ASICs from being able to be created for it. The theory is that we should be able to, we're looking at ways to improve it, to make it even better.
Wow.
I might just quickly refresh this.
It's already really great. I mean, is there any competition out there that has something similar? I think no, right? Bitcoin does it every 2 weeks.
So that's the difficulty, yeah. So, but with and which is adjusted with Digibyte every let's just do the last year's worth, which is adjusted every 15 seconds. With AutoCrypt, the 10-day change period, the 10-day epoch we call it, basically rewrites certain parts of the algorithm itself. So unless you keep up with it and you do these changes every 10 days, the numbers that you're producing are going to be completely 100% invalid and you're never going to find a block. And so that's why AutoCrypt itself is supposed to be ASIC resistant. As of this moment, we don't have any proof of any ASICs or anything. All of the new mining pools that have come online, the last one was, when are we talking? I think it was about 2 months ago now.
Yeah, I think so.
They're also using FPGAs, so yeah.
Yeah, and of course, if you have like a server park, you have to set all these computers in a certain way, and otherwise, with Digibyte, you have to keep resetting them all the time, basically.
Yeah, just specifically for that one AutoCrypt algorithm. So for all the others, for SHA-256, for ISCrypt, they're literally a drop-in replacement, if you will, for Bitcoin and Litecoin. So if you're currently mining Bitcoin, if you happen to have gone out and purchased an ASIC, then cool, you'll be good to go. Yeah, so here we are with the last 12 months worth. You can kind of see it going up and down. Because I've got the 5 different algorithms, it's merged a little bit. But you can see here, Quibbit has actually, it took a lot of dive. There was a little bit of an issue with the server that I was running. But then Quibbit has come up here and has increased quite a lot in terms of comparative to AutoCrypt. So yeah, it's interesting to have the different graphs all there to be able to see and compare against.
Yeah, it's really cool. It looks very, very secure.
Yeah, it's great for being able to reference that and seeing all of those 5 ones adjusting independently, every single block uniquely, like they're not tied to each other, sort of thing. So this is what provides a lot of that security.
And also another point, I mean, we were basically already talking about it, but Tate always said like his focus was on cybersecurity, and that was the reason why he created Digibyte. And he said like, because cryptocurrency, of course, that came also from like 60 years of cryptography development.
Correct.
A lot of people forget it's not only blockchain, but it's also cryptography. That's cryptocurrencies, of course. And he made the claim that with cryptocurrencies or blockchain and cryptography, you could basically eliminate like 95% of cyber crime or cyber theft or cyber security issues.
Yeah, and so part of that kind of stems from what we've been doing with Digi-ID. So with Digi-ID, that was something that I really pushed for in the new wallets. The idea with Digi-ID being that there is no username, there is no password. And that was what really excited me. So it's basically using the same kind of technology that we've been using for like decades with when you connect to a server through SSH and that kind of thing, and you do the public-private key exchange. Putting Digi-ID into these new wallets and making it easily accessible was something that I really wanted to focus on. And I think, if memory serves me right, we even had that before the iOS wallet was properly launched. So that was quite cool to be able to have that in there. I put together a Digi-ID specific page. We had a small countdown to it being available and things. It was fun. But with Digi-ID, because there are no passwords, because you are doing the signing of a message with a website and proving that you are you without ever having to use a username and password, you're removing a lot of incentive for somebody to go and try and hack, for example, like what happened with MySpace.
Yeah.
I had a MySpace account all the way back in the day. And because I used a username and password, people were able to breach into MySpace, not through me specifically, but when they breached MySpace, they had a huge list of everyone's usernames and passwords.
Yeah.
And the key reason that people do that is because you can then take those usernames and passwords and try them on other websites. So people might try it on Facebook. They might try it on your Gmail. They might try it on your bank. Hopefully you're not using the same password for your bank, but... Sorry, say that again?
No, so always use because some people always use the same password on different accounts, and if you're breached, then you're screwed, right?
Yeah. Well, and so this removes a lot of that incentive, because sure, somebody might be able to get into your MySpace account, but if all that they're getting out of it is just your MySpace, there's a lot less incentive, because there's no reason for them to go and try it then on your Facebook page, for example, or on your Instagram, if the credentials that they've got won't be able to work anywhere, because there are no credentials with Digi-ID. You are a pseudo-anonymous string of random letters and numbers, and it's not able to be reused anywhere else. So this is kind of one of those benefits with Digi-ID, and it removes a lot of that reason and incentive for people to try and do any sort of like big breach. So they can't reuse those credentials.
Can you dive into that a little bit more? Because a lot of people who might not be familiar, they say, how can it be? Like, I don't have a username and a password. How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So basically what happens is when you we can probably even do this. Let's do this now. I'll do a screen share. One moment. And we can demo this live. We have the technology.
Yeah, we love demos.
So what I'm going to do here is, let me bring this up.
Yes.
And if I bring up my wallet here, okay. Let's quickly, I'll refresh this. So You can see this is how you would normally go somewhere and log in, is you'll be greeted with a QR code. Now, in this QR code is some little pieces of information. I don't think it's actually showing up there on the screen. That's cool. But it has like a little challenge in it. So what I need to do is hold up my phone here.
Yes.
And I'm going to bring it up, and I'm basically going to take it and scan it. And if I can, hang on, let me move my cable out of the way here. The joys of doing things live. Here we go. Yeah, apologies. I had my mic cable kind of coming down the side here. So it's popped up, and it's asked me if I want to authenticate and sign in there. So I'm going to put my thumbprint on it. And it's going to pop up at the bottom here, and it just says down the bottom there, success. I know it's kind of a little bit blurry.
Yep.
So that's how you would do your sign in. Rather than having to type in a username and a password that you would remember, that's how you sign in instead, is basically with your phone. Now, you've got a couple of advantages here because, first of all, it's a separate device. So I've got my cell phone here, so you have that second factor. But more importantly, there's no username and there's no password. It sends in exactly the same way that you would send your cryptocurrency, with basically a proof that you are who you say you are. Now, up the top corner here, I've gone and put in my name, and it says Josiah. That's completely optional, though. You don't specifically have to have put in, like, your name. I've only done that to make technical support for this website easier.
Yep.
You can go to createdigiassets.com now, and you can sign up. And if you have either the Android, iOS wallet, or even the Koinomi wallet, we have support for it in there. So huge opportunities, and it's great.
Yeah.
We've also got third-party authenticators and things too. Yeah.
Just don't lose your phone. That's the.
Yeah, so don't go losing your. Well, it's not too bad. I mean, because if you lose your phone, your passwords aren't saved on your phone specifically, so you can fire it up. This is actually my third phone since I've made this website, and you still keep the same username and password because you have the same recovery key. So that's pretty cool to be able to sign in just like that.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe a weird question, but I know one or two people who are actually kind of afraid of QR codes. They are afraid that if you scan just a random QR code, you can be robbed. Have you ever heard that rumor before?
So one of the things that we actually do is why don't I quickly do that? I'll log out because you've brought up a really good point. So in some ways, yes. In other ways, no. So what I'll do is if I bring up that app again, I will show you what happens when I try and... Actually, we don't even need a screen share. So what it says here on my screen is please enter your PIN to confirm. And then it says on the website there, it's out of focus because...
Yeah.
But that does actually say it's the website, it's the domain name there. Please enter your PIN to continue or touch the sensor. So if I put my thumb on it, it'll authenticate.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that we do that is because we want you to know that you are signing into the correct place. It's got to know where to send that response back to as part of Digi-ID. And if you happen to, like if there's somebody else who's trying to show you that particular QR code, like if they've intercepted it and they're trying to give you like a fake login page, this bypasses that because they can't have that same QR code. It's going to send the response back somewhere else. So... Yeah,
an extra layer of security there.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and so thank you to your viewer who has brought that up because it is important. It is something that we've thought about.
Yeah, no, definitely, and so this gives us a basic framework of what Digibyte is and what it is about. I think we covered quite a lot. Do you want anything to add before we move on to like the development coming?
No. Yeah, I think we're good. I'm excited about the development and things. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go there, actually, I want to reference like a Cornell study from 2020. I mentioned it in the DM before. And from that study, they did compare all the, not all, because that's too many, but a lot of different cryptocurrencies. And it showed that Bitcoin was the most secure of all the cryptos from that study they did. But then when I read it, I immediately thought about Digibyte. That was like the first thing that popped up my mind. Multi-shield, multi-algo, completely decentralized, 250,000 nodes. community driven, no central organization, no ICO. And then I thought, like, how is that possible? What is your comment, or what's your reply?
That's a really, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'll do one more screen share here because I want to show this article. You said we should do some screen shares, and I'm taking you up on it.
Yeah, no problem. It's where they're there for.
Yeah. So back in the day, we had something called Antbleed. Bitcoin's newest controversy explained. When was this made? 2017. So I was still around back then. Oh, I love that picture. I think it's hilarious. Right. So what happens with Antbleed is back in the day, Bitmain were making most of the Bitcoin ASICs. And there was a vulnerability in the firmware that they were using. And you could use it, I think where is it? The firmware checks in with a central service randomly every 1 to 11 minutes. Every check transmits a bunch of details about you, which is, kind of a bit stink of them for starters.
Yeah.
The remote service can then return false, which will stop the miner from mining. Can you imagine, for just a moment, if it returned false, and all of a sudden, like 80% of Bitcoin mining stopped, 90% of Bitcoin mining stopped? Could you imagine for just a second?
That would be like a heart attack.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'll flick you through this article. It goes through some really interesting details. Is it malicious? Is it a backdoor? It's super, super interesting to have a bit of a read and see this kind of a history about Bitcoin mining. Now, the reason for this is because they were the predominant ASIC manufacturer, which is cool. And that's good because over time you gain performance benefits from ASICs and things like that. But you also gain centralization. And if something like this were to happen, how bad would that be compared to if you look at Digibyte, where we've got a bunch of different algorithms with a bunch of different hardware from a bunch of different manufacturers. And then this is kind of a nice segue into the future development. Imagine GPU mining, imagine CPU mining on top of the ASICs and on top of FPGAs and things like that. There's no one vendor. And so as such, you have that increase in security again. And specifically because of, it's not just the hardware manufacturer. So security, yeah, it's great that Bitcoin has that security for SHA-256, and they've got the most hash rate in it. So in that one specific aspect, yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin is the dominant SHA-256 miner. But it's not quite black and white. You know what I mean?
So that's basically they had like they had a very narrow focused view on what security means for a decentralized.
And so it brings us to an interesting point, and this is specifically why we're looking at replacing SHA-256. So if you were to take, let's say you're a large mining pool with Bitcoin, and you were to take all of your hash rate, and you were to instead start mining Digibyte. We saw this happen with the Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV hash rate wars, and mining pools that were previously mining one particular thing, they were previously mining Bitcoin, they took that hash rate and they pointed it at Bitcoin Cash for a little bit. It's really, I mean, that kind of thing could still happen. A mining pool could be malicious and could take that hash rate and point it again, even now, at Bitcoin Cash, and they could potentially effectively own the network.
Yeah.
And that's bad. Like, that's really bad. You could have collusion from those top 3 mining pools, and if they were to do that, yeah, sure, they're potentially killing their golden goose, but they could rewind a whole lot of blocks and effectively attack the Bitcoin network. They could do it for, so I think it was it 2019 that Binance was hacked?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
And so one of the things I actually wrote a post at the time, and I hypothesized, could CZ have rolled back the network? Yeah. He himself couldn't have, obviously, but he could get on the phone with the 3 top mining pools that had like 55% of that mining curve that we saw, the mining hash rate distribution. And they could basically start from a couple of blocks back and start working their way forward at a faster rate than the rest of the network.
Yeah.
By doing that, by those 3 mining pools colluding together, they could effectively run Bitcoin and control Bitcoin and decide, well, these transactions, we're ignoring them now. If you were to take those same 3 mining pools and point them at Bitcoin Cash, yeah, absolutely, Bitcoin Cash would be destroyed. They would have complete and utter control. Whereas with Digibyte, those same 3 mining pools Sure, they would be able to have a small window where they would potentially be able to double spend or unwind some transactions in the same way that they would do on Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. But that window is incredibly, incredibly small by comparison because of the way that multi-algo works and our multi-shield difficulty adjustment.
I think
they have an increasingly difficult time as the amount of blocks goes on, so to the point where they'd only be able to get maybe like a couple of minutes worth. And this is why most most exchanges will only let you withdraw after, say, for example, 10 blocks. It's pretty standard.
So Michael Saylor once called Bitcoin like the most secure protocol, and he said basically my money is protected by a wall of encrypted energy. A very nice way, poetic way to describe it. But for me, Digibyte was always also like a security. So one of those scenarios, you're basically lining it out right now. You know what happens if Bitcoin, something with Bitcoin goes wrong. I mean, it's not impossible. What would be?
Yeah, what happens if the Antbleed vulnerability was slightly bigger, right?
Yeah,
or it allowed Bitmain to remotely take control of those particular ASICs.
Yeah, so what would
be devastating?
What would be then the most secure network out there after Bitcoin? That would be Digibyte, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in that aspect, we would be more secure because even if they had that particular amount of hash rate, they still can't do the same like permanent control of the network like they could with Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin. And I think part of that is the censorship resistant of transactions. So if you are, let's say, for example, you are CZ and you've just had $40 million stolen from you and you want to unwind a couple of blocks. Now, again, this is all super, super hypothetical. And yeah, he'd be killing the golden goose effectively. It's still plausible for him to ring up a couple of his mates that we know that he's previously been in contact with. We've seen photos of him visiting like a mining operation in China and that kind of thing, which is cool. I'd love to go see them myself as well. Absolutely. How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
But he could potentially, if those three mining pools colluded for 12 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours, they could do that kind of thing. Yeah. You can't do that with Digibyte because the difficulty starts to really, really quickly absolutely skyrocket because of the way that multi-shield works. So if they are trying to do that kind of an attack with with that one mining algorithm, they might only get like a minute or two's worth before they get stopped.
Yeah.
This is where algorithm swaps come in, and this is why I'm super excited for ProgPow and for RandomX, because that would make it even better, even more secure. So super, super excited for that.
Yeah, because it's almost like a real-time difficulty adjustment that they have. But
Well, so that's exactly what it is, that real-time difficulty adjustment, preventing them because they're only mining with SHA-256.
Yeah.
The other difficulties kind of go down, and the difficulty for them when they're trying to mine with SHA-256 goes up a whole lot.
Wow. But before we go any further, there was one other question. For me, it's really obscure and kind of maybe you can shine a light on it. But coding, because with Bitcoin, there's like a GitHub, of course, where the coding happens, and everybody can sort of make proposals for new code being entered into, and then if everybody sort of agrees, and then the nodes accept it, and then when the block is mined, it's part of the Bitcoin protocol, right?
Yep.
But I think there's like also within Bitcoin, there's certain people who hold a key for it to go through. Is that true, or?
So the way that works, actually, I can even potentially bring that up here and show the Digibyte GitHub, because this will give you a little bit of a comparison here.
It's always a little bit obtuse for me how that exactly works, because I'm not a programmer or a coder, so I have no idea.
So the way that this works is if we're here on the Digibyte GitHub, if you wanted to make a pull request, you would come in here and we would go to pull requests. And what this is basically saying for the non-technical people who might be watching is, I have some code and I want you to pull it from me and take it from me. Take this code and then incorporate it into the blockchain code base. So we have one here, which is an upgrade for AutoCrypt, and this is from the BlackMiner team. Mm-hmm. They're looking at ways that they can further improve on AutoCrypt and make it specifically so that it will they're trying to add additional longevity to ensure there is no ASIC at all.
Yeah.
I could do this as well. I could click on new pull request and incorporate some changes potentially that I've made. Now, before it goes anywhere with Digibyte, we can come here and we can see there's a whole bunch of them. So here's one that I actually did. I updated the README, which is just all that you see when you go to the main GitHub page, which tells you a little bit about Digibyte. So the code here is nothing too exciting. We can go in and we can actually have a look at it. And it's literally just me tweaking a few things, updating some of the details, right? April 2019 to May 2021. So it's nothing controversial. But before this, there's a conversation that happens with it. Actually, sorry, this was Kegel who did this, not me. I said, thanks for updating that with the latest details. This will be perfect. And then a review is requested from a number of people. Mm-hmm. So the changes get approved. Yoshi, who's done some of the development as well, also approves this, and then it gets incorporated into it. Now, there's a small list of people that are basically allowed to do that, who are allowed to approve those changes. Mm-hmm. So yes, that those people on Bitcoin, there might only be like 2 people, there might be 5 people, there might be a dozen people. But
sorry for interrupting you, but isn't that like a security risk if it's just so few people who can have such a big say in the coding?
Yes, but also no. So the people that are behind it. So for example, like if you look at one of their guys, Luke-JR. Actually, we'll stop sharing this. He is an incredibly smart dude. Very conservative, but he's really good at like looking after the code and the quality of it to make sure that people aren't just submitting something that's going to cause bugs or problems and things like that. He's very meticulous. If you've got somebody who just goes, yeah, no worries, come on in, let's take that, and just everybody, come on in and let's do all these different changes and things, it's going to cause problems because let's be honest, what's the Bitcoin market cap at the moment? Let's have a look at the coin market cap of Bitcoin. $600 billion.
It's getting smaller by the day.
Yeah, Bitcoin, you got to get your stuff together, man, because right, but it was $1 trillion market cap. Yeah. $1 trillion. You don't want to let $1 trillion be affected because somebody put like a semicolon in the wrong place, right? Like,
yeah, totally. But you, because it's people, you're basically talking about people, and
Yep.
There's always the risk of corruption, bribery. I think we sometimes have Leo Wonderslab on the show, and he's from can't come on, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, he says coders should never get paid for what they do, because once they get paid, they also become sort of susceptible to doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's look at Linux, for example, and the Linux kernel that's inside every Android phone, that's inside like 90% of the world's servers and things. The lead maintainer, Linus Torvalds, I believe he's currently paid by the Linux Foundation. He was previously paid by Red Hat Linux, which is a large, like, enterprise Linux entity. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that Red Hat Linux could at one point come to him and go, hey, Linus, we really just need you to sort this out. Like, it could be a feature, it could be some kind of backdoor. They could go, hey, NSA's come, they're knocking on our door, and we need you to sort this out for us. Or if you don't, we're going to stop paying you. Or maybe if you do, we'll give you a nice bonus. Yeah. I don't know, actually. I'm personally of two minds about it, because I look at all the good in the world that he's done, and I think that he should be paid for that, because he's an incredible person and an incredible coder. He hasn't done a lot of coding lately. He mostly just kind of does triage of things, but I still think that the net contributions that he brings are incredible. Same for all of those guys like Yoshi and things like that. All of the contributions he's been doing lately for Digibyte, the latest release is almost... it's probably like 90% him. Yes, absolutely. I think he should be paid for that, because he poured his blood, sweat, and tears into it. And same for version 8 with Barry. He's spent countless hours doing this, doing the prog-pow, doing the random X, and all of that kind of stuff. Absolutely, I think he should be paid for it. He's an awesome dude. He's a little bit crazy, but he's a good dude.
Yeah, and sorry for me grilling you. I mean, I was
not at all. Go for it. It's great.
And and I think the other thing is, of course, it's open source, so other coders can take a look at it too. And if it's corrupted, then people start ringing the alarm, and people move to another protocol, basically.
Yeah, well, so this is what we also saw with with those changes. You saw that Y. Kagel submitted it. I came along and I checked it out, and I made sure, and I had a look at what those changes were. And for the most part, it was tweaking some of the wording and updating the statistics and things about it. But that is somebody, in this case being me, has reviewed it. And then GTO90 also reviewed it, and he looked at it and he said, yeah, it seems good. There's nothing malicious here, nothing untoward. And then he said, I need somebody else to review it as well. Can somebody else come along and review it? And Yoshi reviewed it. Yoshi looked at it and went, yep, sweet, thanks, man, it's all good. So the code process, the new process that we've specifically implemented with the latest Digibyte, is that you can't get code in unless it's being submitted and then reviewed independently by at least 2 other independent people. So again, I mean, over time that will increase. It might become 3, it might become 5, it might become 10, but we want that security that's not going to happen, because you're right, that's a very valid point.
So what do you think about this proposal? I have been wondering also about our education system, and I think there's like a lot wrong with our education system. There's also some good stuff, of course, it's not all bad. But I think, one of the things I would want in education is like programming as a core subject. That the more people who know, like coding for survival, basically, I think the future will be all about coding. It's maybe like a second language, or maybe first language for some people.
Yeah.
But then more eyeballs will be on the coding.
On the code.
Yeah, and they can help out and also keep an eye out.
Absolutely, and that's going to bring about more ideas and fresh ideas and new ways of doing things. So one of the things that Yoshi previously said to me is he said, look, he said, I love working on Digibyte, but every time I make a change and I fire it up, it takes a long time on my laptop for it to actually load up. And if you've ever used the Core wallet, you'll know it can on some older PCs, it can take like 5 to 10 minutes. It sucks. It's a pain. Barry came along, and with his improvements, he's made the whole thing start up now in like 15 to 20 seconds.
Wow.
That's amazing, huge. Yeah. And so now the implications of having an additional set of eyes on it and a new way of thinking has meant that Yoshi's able to do more tests and do more contributions, because we've got a bigger, I suppose, set of people helping out with it, and new people, new ideas, looking at the code, looking at the problems and solving it. So I look forward to more and more people being able to participate in it. I think that's huge for us, especially as we're starting to grow. And yeah, that's probably a really nice place to leave that.
That's also, one of the really amazing things about Digibyte is also the community. I mean, it's so big, it's all over the world, and everybody is so engaged and committed. It's also one of the things that always steals my heart, when I look at those projects like Digibyte, like those real projects with the real community behind them. I mean, that's where the real value is, of course, for these protocols.
Yeah, absolutely. And the community certainly goes a long way towards it. The blockchain is nothing if no one wants to use it. And the community can see the value in what we've got and in where we're going with it too. And I think as well, what we're doing with ProgPow and RandomX, and hopefully we'll have those pull requests in for people to be able to vote on that, to decide, yes, we want that, is the CPU and the GPU mining is going to increase that community. Because if you can pick up your phone and if you could start mining on that when you take it, plug it in at night, charge it, and if it brings in like 1 or 2 cents worth of Digibyte, how cool is that going to be in places that are, slightly less well off, developing nations, that kind of thing? It's amazing. And it's going to broaden that community and bring more people into it and become a lot more encompassing.
Yeah, it will incentivize in a big way, which, is perfect segue to those developments that you're already mentioning. Can you lift the wheel a little bit about the stuff that's coming?
Yeah, so the big thing I think is going to be ProgPow and RandomX. So I've kind of mentioned it a few times. So that means that you're going to take your computer's graphics card or your CPU, or maybe even your cell phone CPU, and be able to mine Digibyte with it. So we're removing a huge barrier to entry there when it comes to having to currently buy an ASIC or an FPGA miner, because that can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Whereas if you've already got a computer or even a cell phone, and you can start mining, even if you're not making $1 million overnight, but even if you're just making that little bit, it gets you involved and it gets you like a vested interest in Digibyte and protecting it, Yep. So we're going to have, like I mentioned before, those pull requests on the Digibyte GitHub, and people are going to be able to say, yes, I'm interested in it. No, I'm not. The benefit of this is it's going to not only replace the likes of SHA-256, which is our weakest algorithm at the moment, but so that's going to increase the security. It's also going to increase the decentralization of mining and the distribution of the assets. So that's a real, all three in one, woo!
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And
so we've been doing this, I think it was 2019. We started, or at least myself, I started a big kind of campaign pushing for Prog POW. So it's been a good 2 years in the making now, and hopefully, I think the implementation is mostly done by Barry. He's almost finished it. I've paid him out the bounty specifically, and so we're hopefully going to see a pull request from that soon. We'll be able to have the other developers review it, because remember, you've got to have 2 other independent people look over it, check it before it gets accepted. And then we'll have the community basically say, yeah, look, I think that this is great. I love this idea. Let's do this. Or more specifically, with Prog POW, it might be about, do we keep the existing DAG that we're bringing in, or do we reset it, or a whole bunch of things. So,
congratulations. Yeah. That's really awesome. Actually, within our community, we have a lot of Digibyte fans, including myself.
Fantastic.
And my brother.
Yes, I'm sorry he couldn't be here today. Give my condolences to him. I hope he recovers quickly.
Well, I hope it won't come to that. He'll probably be here next time. But he would love to be here, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's cool. Are there any other developments that are coming with Digibyte? Something you maybe top secret or?
I think so. One of the other things with the new version 8, is we're looking at 2 things kind of come to mind. So number 1 is a theme and a visual refresh. People have been talking about another logo for Digibyte and kind of refreshing that as well. But one of the other things that I'm super excited about, so that's obviously going to be something that people really need to come in and have their say on, right? And be part of that discussion, like, yes, we love it, or no, I think the current one is so much better, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to see some more details about that really soon. So please, everybody go and be subscribed to the GitHub so you can get notified when the details are available. And also stay subscribed here on this channel, because I'm sure we'll be covering it at some point.
Cool. I'll put everything in the description box below.
Yeah, and also the improvements that are coming from Schnorr signatures and Taproot. So we're going to have a size, I suppose the size of transactions is going to get smaller, giving us more capacity. Better privacy enhancements are coming from that, additional options for smart contracts and things. So all of the good stuff is coming to version 8.
Yeah, that's basically, I always keep forgetting that Taproot, because Bitcoin is also tapping it. And because Digibyte is super secure, we already established that part, but it also wants to be private, or does it wants to be both private?
Yeah, well, so there's definitely advantages to certain parts of being private. So what we have is a really good pseudo-anonymous middle ground. It's not as private as Monero, for sure. Definitely better than some other systems. So yeah, it's good. It's really good. And this is going to bolster that a little bit more.
Yeah, because it's always like a balance. Because if you want big institutions and entities to come in, you also have to have not only some privacy, but also some public. It has to be both, basically. You have to be.
Yeah. And so this brings a really good middle ground. It improves things just sufficiently without causing any problems like we've seen with the unlistings from Monero and things like that. We're definitely not that far. And frankly, if people want to use Monero, yeah, use Monero. It's great. I love that project. I think it's fantastic.
It's also one of my favorites.
Yeah. So if people want something that is completely 100% private, cool, go use Monero, and all the better for it. I think there is more than enough space in the blockchain for us to be able to do that kind of thing. To, support Monero, support Digibyte, support Bitcoin.
And CCAS has that optionality that you can switch it on and off, the privacy.
Yeah.
So that would also be a possibility or an option.
I don't think that's the kind of path that Digibyte specifically is going down at the moment. But who knows what the future might hold. And if somebody wants to put together a pull request, yeah, cool. Why not? Let's have a look at it. Can't hurt to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground, and I cannot take too much of your time. And
yeah, no worries. It's getting late there for you as well, and I'm sure you could do with a nice night's sleep. So thank you so much for staying up late to be able to do this talk with me. I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on your channel.
This was a super chat. I really enjoyed it, and we went really deep. We had a lot of great insights.
Brilliant questions as well. Brilliant questions. So thank you to you and your community for those.
Well, thank you, and I hope to have you on soon and talk more Digibyte.
Perfect. Until then, take care.
Take care, man. Bye-bye. So people, that was Spackman going through Digibyte. It was like an awesome interview. I was really looking forward to this interview and asking those difficult questions, stuff that was on my mind for a very long time. And I got the answers that I wanted and hoped for. I wasn't disappointed in any way. I really love Digibyte, and now I love it even more. And to celebrate this and to celebrate your attention and reward you for your viewing year, I'm giving away $20 worth of my Digibyte. So all you have to do is go on Twitter. You have to tag me, that's CryptoND. You have to tag my brother, J. Dalmolder, and you have to tag Josiah Spackman. That is Digibyte chilling. Let's see. Well, for the Digibyters out here, it shouldn't be a problem. Tag all three of us and tell us what you really liked about this interview, what stuck with you, what you loved, what excited you, what amazed you, whatever. Go on Twitter, tweet about it, and tag us, and then somebody will win $20 worth of Digibyte. And Digibyte is very easy to transact in, so you will have it very quickly. I'm gonna say goodbye to you. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I always say two things at the end of the show: watch, earn, and learn, and makes you wonder.